Everybody knows about the difference between the Echoplex 1, 2, 3, 4, and of course the Oberheim later series digital delays and echoes. But what I wanted to do, because I had a good fortune of having these guys present here, is talk about the difference in schematics and sound between the Echoplex 3 three different schematic versions. I happen to have a early transition model, transistor Echoplex 3 version 1. It's like the 14th one ever made in an Echoplex 2 box, but transistor and everything, no tubes in there. A Blackface series Echoplex 3 second schematic model. I think that's like in the 12,000 range, and a later series Echoplex 3 schematic version 3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play through each one of those to give you an idea of what differences, if any, the sounds are. Playing these already, I can tell you the original transistor Echoplex 2 model that I've got, the Echoplex 3 transitional, has a much warmer sound, and the echo repeats. I've done some stuff here. There is a resistor that you can take in or leave in or take out that allows the echoes just to go on ad nauseum without that crazy UFO sound to them. But I actually put that, I took that out because I wanted to have the crazy sound, but either way, so I won't be able to demonstrate that today. And then the Blackface and then the silver top versions later. Okay, so let's give them a whirl. Okay, so I'm going to record this with a Echolette M40. It's one of the cleanest amps I've ever used, just so you can get the clarity of what I'm talking about here. So this one is the Transitional EP3 in an EP2 box. Let's give this a run through. So this is just without the effect. I've got the pedal switched off. All right, let's put it back on. If I throw some distortion in the front of it, shows you how it compresses. Give you a sense of the long. And if I crank this up, to go crazy oscillation if I crank it all the way up. Right, boosts it. And of course you can take out that resistor. But let me just really crank distortion here with a boost behind it. Clean, compressed, very little noise. This one just gives you that warmth of sound. The compression is fairly clear, and when you drive it with distortion, it just narrows it into that tunnel, which it gives you an evenness that's really great to record on, really great to play on. All right, let's move on to the next one. Okay, it's the Blacktop version. Very similar in my mind, but it is a transition between the first version and the third version. It's definitely warm, but it's got kind of a coldness to the repeats, which are, I guess, in a way, a lot more accurate. but doesn't introduce a lot of sound like the first one does in the compression and all that kind of stuff. So. This is off, by the way. Yeah, it's got a lot of compression. Yeah, I can't get it to peak so much, right? This is the great thing about an Echoplex. Let's give you a sense of the long here. I'll put it all the way up to here. I'll go right back to the, yeah, I can throw this thing up. Degrades quickly. Not a lot of strength to the signal on that as much as the other one has the possibility of doing. That's like way, way up. Go even higher than that. Yeah, you'll get that for sure. Okay, let me bring it back down and then give you a super distortion. Let's try the next one. Okay, and here we have the Silvertop third version schematic. This one is, you know, I'm assuming they were trying to go for, you know, what would eventually be this kind of analog bucket brigade chip or digital, just trying to reproduce as closely the sound. So this one has got echoes that are a lot colder, a lot more accurate to a certain degree. It still has the compression, which is great, but it's got a different sound altogether. So let's start off with the... Let's throw some distortion in front of it. Oh yeah, forgot to do it without as well. Still, that kind of classic compressed sound where you're not getting your peaks, this one does it just as well as the other ones. Let's give a, let's go for the long, give you a sense of that. the super distortion. Such a great sound, such a great sound. So yeah, this is great. It's colder. It's got more treble to it, whereas the other versions have less and less of that treble, that warmth to it. It's kind of a high frequency roll off in the early one, but this one will give you. Yeah, a lot more sensitive to that. Right, if I go too far on this, I mean, maybe the recording is just a little bit higher than it would be. But yeah, it gives you some nasty, gnarly sounds, which, if that's your thing, this is it, right? Okay, so let's go back to the drawing board. Okay, so in the final analysis here, I mean, we're talking about these three different schematic versions, which in the end are fairly minor. But the way that they play out in this seems to be significant. Now, the caveat here is that you can have any two of these Echoplexes within the same schematic version, and they're going to sound different. I tried to run the same tape on each one of these, so there wasn't that variable in there. But again, in the final analysis, really what I'm looking at is a very strong signal from the first version, the rarer one, that they limit in order for you to get a smoother sound altogether. The second one kind of dials back from that. I think they thought that they made a mistake in removing those highs and basically put them back in, of which you can tell there's a little bit more of a treble element into it, and it shows itself not only in the echo repeats, but when you start turning up the sustain, it gets more harsh. Not in a bad way, but just different. And then the third version, it has that very trebly steel cold repeats to it, which has a cut to them that is different than the other two. And I see a use for each one of these. I mean, just for the imagining, when you go, I've got a really trebly amp. I'm going to cut that with a more bassy sounding Echoplex, and vice versa. Same with the guitars. I've got a ginormous collection of guitars, even within the same, like my Les Pauls. I've got one that is so trebly that I need to cut it with my Marshall, which is a darker amp. But I can also see inserting one of these guys in there in order to do the trick, which I haven't done yet. So I'm going to try that out. Okay, so in other words, there are three different versions of that. They sound very different to me. I don't know if you could pick that up on this iPhone camera audio or whatever, but there's a noticeable difference between each three. I've seen talk about this going like, the first one's different, but the second two are basically the same. And I agree. I look at the schematics and I see that there's very little difference between the second and the third, but there's a difference. And all three of them have it, and you can hear it. And hopefully you could hear. All right, hopefully this was helpful to you. I really enjoyed doing this. If you like these videos, click subscribe and or like. All right, have a good one.